So, um, a viewer had mentioned that the true test for whether that fuel check valve was the cause of my long cranking issue, or a longer crank than normal. He had mentioned that the true test is let it sit overnight. So it's been sitting overnight. This is going to be a cold start. Let's see how long it takes to crank up. Yes, I don't know. Seems okay. Although I didn't really notice a problem before. But maybe the viewer can tell me whether that was longer than it should be. Alright, I'm gonna go for a little drive, get some gas. The other thing that I wanted to mention was I'm considering selling this vehicle. Not because of any particular reason other than the fact that I'm looking at a 997.2. That's 911 from 2009 to 2012. For some reason I got down that rat hole and started looking at all the 911s and which one is the one to get. Spent I don't know how many hours researching everything I could find on it, except for Craigslist. I didn't go to Craigslist, but everything online and things on YouTube. So I'm looking for a Carrera S in a manual 6-speed version. So anyways, I'm considering putting this on the market. I took some photos of it yesterday, and I'm gonna throw it on Craigslist just to see if there's interest. I'm gonna list it kind of high, like around 50K, to see what kind of responses I get. The one thing that I will say is that I've always thought until very recently that I would keep this car forever. So everything that I did was with that in mind. And I don't know if that translates well on this channel, but there are things that really didn't need to be replaced, but I did it anyways because I envisioned my daughter taking this car and giving it to her kids, that kind of thing. For example, like the check valve. Unless a viewer mentioned something to that effect and the part was relatively cheap, I don't think I would have really had a problem with it. Even the warm starting issue. I mean, part of the reason why I do some of these things is because it gives me content to do on this channel, in addition to, having me the joy of working on the car and knowing that it's going to improve it. The downside to some of the things I've done is it's not original. A lot of these things are changes that I made that I felt made the car look better and didn't keep everything original. Like a lot of the panels and stuff that I made, or I reupholstered in leather. So those types of things some might have issues with, but again, I think a lot of folks are like they're hung up about the originality of a car when they're concerned about basically showing to other people. And with the 928s, I think a lot of these cars don't run properly or work. Not everything works on the car, so they're more concerned about the the stats of the car, meaning, you know, whether it's all original, whether it has this, that, and the other. And, you know, when they go to shows or they go to Cars and Coffee or something like that, then they, you know, they can say, well, this is original and that's original. But the actual joy of driving the car or using the car is not there because it's not working correctly, right? So they're concerned about, like, oh, can I make it to this show or that show by this time? And I mean, this car in particular, because it has over 300 horsepower, and it handles well. It's the driving part. It's the experience of driving this car that is valuable. It's not just owning the car and having it be all original. So anyways, that's my argument as to why this car is special and unique. Number one, it's a Euro spec with all those things. It drives extremely well. It has power, and it's fun to drive. You don't have to, you know, do this mind trick and say, well, back in the 1980s, you know, cars were of this certain, you know, level, and this car in 1985 was great. But in today's standards, it's, you know, you have to kind of accept that it's not gonna, you know, give you the same thrill. But that's the thing. This car today gives, I think, anyone who's an enthusiast the thrill of what it's like to drive a Porsche. If I could keep both cars, I definitely would. I don't think I can. That's the problem. Alright, I'm at the gas station now. The other thing about this car that's unique is that it's registered in California. For a Euro spec ROW vehicle, having been registered in California is, I think, a big deal. You don't see a lot of them in California because they're so hard to get smogged and properly registered with the DMV. So that's somewhat of a rarity. What is going on with this GoPro? So that reminds me of how much I hate GoPro. I have two different GoPros. One's a 10 and one is an 11.